claim your nationality. You taught us love is the truth, consider conquer hate. You taught us peace is Islam and that you can't debate. You taught us freedom is in the line cause it's the mental state. Justice only blind for the law cause this you can't escape. It's Tag Day, so we celebrate history.
Islam. We are live tonight from New Head Studios. We're going to continue with the menu podcast tonight. Remember, you all can catch us every Tuesday from 6 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. We're running late tonight, but we're gonna get a lot of information done tonight. Again, we're going to continue with episode 3. We're going to continue to talk about nationality. Now tonight, we're going to be bringing us some definitions, and you all will hear us saying the definitions of some things. So you got me, which is Jennifer, Lynn, and we have Ray that's in the middle of it tonight. So we just want to freestyle and just go back and forth, conversing about nationality, the importance of nationality, why it's important to claim your nationality, and we're probably going to talk about, I guess, some ways that you probably can go about claiming your nationality, whether you go to a temple, whether you give us some more to know what they're doing, or etc. We're going to talk about a few things. So, further ado, we're going to turn it over. And I think we're just going to pull up the Act of 1871, the Organic Act.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
And again, you all that has joined in live on Instagram. If you want to see the full show, you can go to Jennifer Lynn Hill on YouTube, subscribe, and go back and watch the full show. All right. So Islam, Brother Rayu.
Islam.
Now, do you see, are you able to pull up the Act of 1871? I want to pull it up on the screen too so that others can
You
see
can
it.
pull it up. That's the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
I said that's the whole thing.
Yeah. But I got it right here. Now, there's one part of it that says District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. It says the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871 is an act of Congress that repealed the individual charters of the cities of Washington and Georgetown and established a new territorial government for the whole District of Columbia. And then another part says, though Congress repealed the territorial government in 1874, the legislation was the first to create a single municipal government for the federal district. So what does that mean?
Well, you're only showing the first page there on here.
Yeah, because I'm going to see. They won't be able to see that.
Can you blow it up?
No.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good place to start because I think it's important for everybody to understand basically the tricks and treasonous acts that's being perpetuated against us all as indigenous individuals, or what I should say, the indigenous peoples of the land. This Organic Act of 1871 is evidence of when the United States became a corporation, meaning that they incorporated under a new territory, which was basically out of line with the original treaty that gave them the authority to operate and do business on this land.
So what you're saying is 1871 is when it was no longer a government?
Right, when they failed to be what is considered a de jure government, and they gave up the sovereign authority, basically, to become a corporation so that they could do business for profit and borrow money on a global scale from the international bankers. So they became no different than Ford or McDonald's or any other corporation that you can think of. What this act here did was gave them the ability as a corporation, or what is considered a person, the ability to sue and be sued. So no longer acting as a de jure government, they became incorporated, meaning the U.S. of America, the United States of America, Inc. Incorporated.
So are we talking about the Act of 1871 with that, and with the government becoming a corporation? Does that go for the banks too? Or do the banks really have the money?
Do they really have the money?
Yeah, like the fiat. When we go to the bank, are they really the ones that carry the money? Or is they bankrupt just like the government?
Well, the banks are actually privately owned, a privately owned entity that has nothing to do with the government. It's a separate entity that was basically created under the Federal Reserve Act of 1913.
1913 Federal Reserve Act. 1913. So when people talk about nationality, you think this would be a good place to start at? It's the 1871 Organic Act.
Well, to me, this ties back into the importance of nationality and why it's important to know who we are so that we can remove ourselves from this commercial system and this commercial game that's being perpetuated. Because what we don't understand is that we were all born with an estate, and that's like one of the main secrets that's being overlooked or held back from us. Like, we are put into this system as a debtor when they are controlling and doing what is called usurpation to our estates, over our estates, and acting as executor of our estates, which is a position that has been basically abandoned if you don't know some of these things.
Now that goes back to, like, they might have a trust over us, and they are like the grantors or the trustees.
Basically, when a child is born, I'm using the word child cognitively, but when a baby is born in the United States or within the United States territory, or assumed territory, I should say, basically we born sovereign, in the sovereign status, meaning that we have no dominion. No one has dominion over us other than the Creator, and a vessel through our mom or our mothers, which we was brought here. And what they do as a service corporation is come in and get the mother to basically sign over the rights to the baby without her knowledge, so to speak.
See, and that's what a lot of us mothers do not know, though. That's what we don't understand. So the thing is, when we go and we have our child, when we give birth, our son, our daughters come into this world sovereign. But as soon as they come a day or two later and want you to sign the birth certificate, that's when we become, or what they say, just like dead, or just a piece of paper or the ward of state.
Well, that actual birth certificate is forming what is considered a contract with the state of whatever state thereof he was born into.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's a difference between being born and birthed. You're born one day, the application is processed, and then you are birthed according to the birth certificate, which is a certificate is a evidence of an event.
Mm-hmm.
So the certificate is evidence of your birth, meaning your incorporation into this foreign government.
So coming from your point of view, and I want everyone to understand that this is just from our point of view, how we think we should do things. Now let me ask you, because it is a lot of discrepancies. with this, but a lot of people say, should you authenticate your birth certificate or should you not authenticate your birth certificate? And the only reason why I say that is because some people say to authenticate it, but then again, I hear the best thing they probably ever did was give us the birth certificate because that pays for, like, that pays off any debt or anything that we have.
Well, it should pay off anything we have because not just the birth certificate itself, but the Social Security account that's connected with it. Social Security was supposed to be for our Social Security, just what it say. But instead, they turn the system around to make us debtors. The United States are the real debtors in every situation. And what they did was took the birth certificate and used us all as collateral to leverage and what is called hypothecate. That's another word we're going to look up.
Hypothecate?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to look up hypothecate. We're writing down words and we're going to go back and talk about hypothecate. So what about the importance of like our fingerprints, like our thumb prints? Does that all ties in like the birthrights? You know how sometimes they have your oh no, that's the baby feet I'm talking about.
Right. They take the baby footprint, which is your landmark before you actually have a chance to make a landmark, meaning connecting yourself to the earth that you was, to the ground, to the earth, to the land that you was born on. They take that little footprint and they put it on a piece of paper and they put a state seal on it or attach it to a state seal, meaning that they are forming a trust. They taking the afterbirth some kind of weird way, taking the afterbirth as evidence of your mother so-called the informant in the situation. They have your mother sign the birth certificate as the informant, and they basically forming a trust saying that you were abandoned at birth. You was abandoned once you was born, which made the state take control of your estate, so to speak. Like they are saying that like basically they your guardians.
Right.
So
What
they
you talking about?
no, I was gonna say, so they take that footprint along with your mother's information, her signing as the informant, and they start what is called a Sesta KV trust. Now that's another good thing. The Sesta KV Act of 1666.
Now, what he's talking about, you all, is if you ever wondered how you give birth to your son or daughter, you bring them into this world, but a total stranger can come in your house and take your child from you and tell you we're going to take your child and we'll let you know whether we're going to give your child back to you, or your son or daughter back to you or not. Have any of you ever wondered how is that? How can you come to my home and I am the woman, I am the one who birthed the nation and take what's mine? And that's because the birth certificate. When you signed that birth certificate, you signed your child over as ward of the state to the state. So you gave them all control and authority over your sons and daughters. And that's where we mess up at. That's where that's where the problem lies at. But we don't know that. We don't know that we're doing that. We just know that you have to have a birth certificate in order to be here. So we automatically go sign the birth certificates and feel like we're doing the right thing. But in reality, it's signing the child over to the ward of the state. And you no longer have control over your son or daughters. Now, is that true?
That's correct. And that's where the problem starts, because us being born without even awareness, your mother never knew you had an estate. So that's when nationality come to play, because without a nationality and something basically tying your ancestral history or your ancestral lineage then you have no clue of an estate or what you even worth.
Now, someone say, so what if you don't sign the birth certificate?
What if you don't sign the birth certificate?
Well, I believe that even if you don't sign the birth certificate, everything starts from the mother. So if she still signs it, it doesn't matter.
What does she mean? The father signed the birth certificate or the mother?
What if you don't sign the birth certificate? This is the
Meaning as the father, or I don't think that the contract would go through without a signature. Period. So I mean, the father may not sign in often cases, but the mother's signature is definitely required as the informant for the process to continue.
Right.
So it's more to it though. What they do with that birth certificate is they send the birth certificate off first, the application for the birth certificate. Leave the hospital and goes to 55 Water Street, New York, where it goes into what is called Depository Trust Corporation, the DTC, and the DTCC, the Depository Trust Corporation, and it's a depository trust company. And what they do is they control all the basically the commodities, the securities for the United States. Over 90% of the securities. In 1934, when they created the Securities and Exchange Act, it was basically the start of them developing Wall Street, which was designed basically just to control paper and make paper commodities, what is considered chattel papers, so that they can leverage those birth certificates on the stock market.
But then we have Black Wall Street first.
Black Wall Street?
Yeah.
Black Wall Street is something different. Black Wall Street?
Yeah. I thought Wall Street started from us, period, with the stocks and stuff. And then they came in and took that over. I thought it was a Black Wall Street before anything else. Maybe I didn't know. That's something I gotta check this out. Okay.
Yeah, maybe so. Because Black Wall Street, from my understanding, is just a community. It was a community of black, so-called black people. Once again, without correct status, combining their efforts and their funds together to make a better way for themselves. You know, probably using some of the tricks and trades of Wall Street. Once you learn it ain't really that difficult. Once we learn how they doing these things, if we had that type of mentality or motive, then you can perpetuate some of the same bullshit.
Yeah, see, someone had told me that we have started Black Wall Street back in the day, and then they came to just both.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's look it up.
So that's let's see. Let's look up Black Wall Street. The Black Wall Street Massacre. The Black Wall Street Market. There's a few different things that's popping up.
It's also Let's
see.
What was considered Black Wall Street?
Yeah, it just one like they own
Black Wall
everything.
Street formed by the name of the Greenwood neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where in the early 20th century Americans had created a self-sufficient, prosperous business district. Yeah, like I was saying, it's when African Americans had created a self-sufficient, prosperous business district. This says
The first minority-owned stock exchange. That's what I'm getting. The first minority-owned stock exchange.
all right, that makes me want to go to the word hypothecate.
Okay.
So I'm looking in the Black's Law 4th edition dictionary.
So now we're going to look up some definitions. Yeah, the Bank Black USA. Yeah. Okay. And you want to hypothecate it?
Yeah, rock and roll. All right, hypothecate. Hypothecate. That's HYPOTHECATE.
Got it.
And it says here to pledge a thing without delivering the possession of it to the pledgee. The master, when abroad, in the absence of the owner, may hypothecate the ship, freight, and cargo to raise money requisite for the competition. For the completion of the voyage. Hypothecation, the term borrowed from the civil law in so far as in the naturalization in English American law, it means a contract of mortgage or pledge in which a subject matter is not delivered into the possession of the pledgee or pawnee, or conversely, a conventional right existing in one person over specific property of another, which consists in the power to cause a sale of the same, though it be not in his possession, in order that the specific claim of the creditor may be satisfied out of the proceeds. The term is frequently used in our textbooks and reports, particularly upon the law of bottomry or maritime liens. Thus, a vessel is said to be hypothecated for the demand of one who has advanced money for supplies. In common law, there are but a few, if any, cases of hypothecation. In the strict sense of civil law, this is a pledge without possession by the pledgee. The nearest claim of material men and of seamen of wages, but these are liens and privileges rather than hypothecation stories. Okay, so basically, what they do is with these instruments, such as the birth certificate, they turn us into what is considered chattel, meaning or stemming from the word cattle. So you have to be able to look at this thing like a farm. Basically, the United States Service Corporation became a farm in so many words. And as a farmer, you know that your stock has certain value. So as a farmer, when you get a new baby cow, for example, born, that baby cow will come with some type of value to it. You know what I'm saying? So ask yourself, being a farmer and you had a new baby cow just born and you hold it in your hands, how much is this cow worth? So without putting an actual number on that cow, you would understand that if you consider the milk and the cheese and the butter and the other things that you're going to get from receiving the proceeds of this cow, you know what I'm saying? Nourishing this cow and making money off of it, the value of the cow itself goes up when you consider the proceeds that you get. Then when you tell yourself, well, damn, when this cow die, I'm gonna cut a year worth of steaks out of it. I'm gonna get, steaks and cow liver, whatever. They may be able to sell further after the death of the cow. So that wouldn't cause the value of the cow to a farmer to increase. when you consider all the profits that's to be made, right? So then you have to ask yourself, how much is a little baby lifelong taxpayer worth in that same instance? So once you do that, then you see where the value come from, because they are hypothecating that newborn baby into what is considered chattel property. So they form these liens against the estate. They use the baby himself as the collateral to form the birth certificate and to borrow money against it. They put it on the New York Stock Exchange, and they do what is called an IPO, an initial public offering. And whatever the going rate is at that time, which I think right now is like 1.6 million or something like that. I'm not completely sure, but whatever the going rate is at that time, that's how much money these states are getting up front for each newborn birth certificate.
So now let me ask you this, is there a way that we can come out of that?
A way to come out of it?
Or a way to stop them from doing that?
Well, yes. I mean, there's several different approaches. I think the first way is understanding the fraud and the process and how they doing it. Then you understand the law, and you have to understand contract law and the things that's necessary to reverse contracts that you never agreed to go into in the first place. Like, you have to know the game that they are actually playing, starting with the SESTA KV Act. Let's look that up right quick.
Now, I said that to say that goes back to at least start to claim our nationality. We can start getting rid of all the fraud that's going on.
Yes, because you are able to remove yourself from this commercial game, from this commercial system, tying yourself back to the land, meaning you're not choosing to be a part of that game. You're not choosing to be held as surety or a commodity to this service corporation.
Okay.
Because we all have a nationality. Like, no matter where you come from, where you was born, you have a nationality through your mother and father and the land which you are connected through your ancestors, and the lineage that was here before you.
Now let me ask you this. I was told that if I don't go through an emperor or science temple, then I can't claim the nationality. What do you think about that?
I don't
Like,
believe
so
that.
the reason why I say this is because if this is our birthright, how can someone give us something that's our birthright?
I don't think that they can. I think that the only thing an emperor or anybody in that situation claiming to be an emperor can do is offer you processes, offer you different processes and faster ways of acknowledgement.
And the teachings of Noble Karate, I'll say that.
Definitely. But like I said, some of them questions I can't answer because it's about processes. It's about, to me, first understanding the game, because you can't play a game unless you know the rules. You can't win unless you know how you been getting beat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all of those things are still different ways to skin a cat to me. But if you don't realize the cat and the body of the cat, then trying to skin them is something that you ain't gonna be able to do anyway.
That's true. But anyone that is studying nationality, I want to get information on nationality, or just starting to come to it because they're being awakened right now, I would suggest that you do study. Because you can claim the nationality and then think that that's just it and go on about your life because you feel like you did something right. But we all going to get tested. We're going to get tested on it. So you have to start to walk in that. You can't just do it and never eat. You have to study. You have to know that when things happen, how to handle it and how to stand on the square. The number one thing is how to stand on your square and know how to handle yourself when these things happen because they're going to happen. And I think that's why a lot of people don't even want to go into that area because they don't want to have to, how can I say, they don't want to have to stand on it. You know, a lot of people is more happier just being the way that they are because it's easier. They don't have no headaches, they don't have no problems. You know, right now, life is good for them. But we all know that everything is going for a curveball right now in this world. So we're waking up every day and something different is happening. We don't know what to expect for the next day. So many stuff is happening behind the scenes that we know nothing of. Like a lot of us didn't even know that the government was bankrupt. A lot of us didn't even know that it's not a government, it's nothing but corporations. As far as they know, we living in a government, you know, there is no corporations and life is just good. But a lot of things is falling and coming to the forefront right now. And we have to be able to stand on our square and get ready for whatever is coming or whatever is about to happen. And we know one of the main things that, for me, I know that I have to get in order and make sure that I'm in my proper person is my nationality. What I don't want to happen is life hits me too late and I didn't have the opportunity to stand on my square and claim my nationality and walk in a purpose to what I was given and walking in the teachings of what Noble Drew Ali has told us. And so now what do you think about the nationality cards? And the reason I said what you think about that because didn't they say that the nationality card is the highest form of identification?
That's what some people say. I mean, the nationality card. Well, the reason why a person would say that is because these other forms of identity or other forms that are governmental issues, issue identification cards or whatever is de facto. Like all of these are contracts that's being formed with this corporation that make us privy to their taxes and their laws. If you notice, before you get an application, before you get an ID of any kind or a license from them, you have to do what is called apply, and you have to fill out for an application, which means to beg and plead. And what you are doing is entering into a contract that makes you privy and responsible or liable to the terms and conditions that come with it. So through licenses and identification cards issued by the state is what makes you consider a taxpayer, or what continues the usufruct or the usurpation of your estate.
Okay. So now we can go back to one of the definitions that we should look up. You have another word that we can look up and go over?
Yeah, I want to go to the Access to KV Act because this is basically fundamental as far as understanding this trust that was created with this birth certificate.
Okay. Access to KV Act.
Of 1666.
So, let's see. up wrong. I think I might be pulling it up wrong. You might just have to go over it and just tell us your definition of it. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You pulled it up? Let's see. I think I'm spelling it wrong. That's why I can't even see.
It's CESTUI. Next word QUE.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, that's the KV Trust. Okay. A Cessna KV Trust is a person entitled to an inequitable rather than legal trust in the estate assets. The concept is used in modern life and health insurance policies, where Cessna KV is an individual whose life measures the duration of the insurance contract. So then we have, what does Cessna KV mean? It's kind of hard. A beneficiary of a use. And then it has one, what is the Cessna KV Act 1666? London 1666, during the Black Plague and Great Fires of London, Parliament enacted an act behind closed doors called Cessna KV Act 1666. The act being debated was to subrogate the rights of men and women, meaning all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea, or beyond the sea.
So basically, a Cessna KV, the term Cessna KV was derived from when the sailor or when someone would go at war or whatever overseas in the sea, in the large sea. I mean, you know. So if a sailor was lost at sea, their estate assets or whatever would be turned over to another person or entity. And they had within 7 years, if they hadn't come back to claim those assets, then they were dispersed. So what they did when they applied the Cessna KV Act to living people, they basically, like you said, declared us all dead or lost at sea. So with you not knowing that you consider lost at sea, you have no knowledge or idea that you're supposed to even claim assets back from the service corporation. So,
because the Cessna KV Trust is the beneficiary of a trust.
right.
So
So it's a trust being formed, and under the Cessna KV Act, and you are the actual beneficiary of that trust. But without knowing that it even exists, they are able to usurp you and your estate.
now, a beneficiary of trust is the individual or group of individuals for whom a trust is created. The trust creator or grantor designates beneficiaries and a trustee who has a fiduciary duty to manage trust assets in the best interest of beneficiaries as outlined in the trust agreement. So the reason why I read that is because isn't it like the corporations are the trustee of us and we are the beneficiaries, are the birth certificates and social security numbers and they're claiming, or they have like,
Well, you have to understand of trust relationships, I would say. So in a trust, in any trust, is going to be three positions that's mandatory for the creation of the trust. One being the grantor or the trustor or the creator. Two being the trustee, meaning the person that the responsibility is given. And three, for the benefit of the beneficiary. So we, as the beneficiaries of these SDKV trusts, because in order for it not to be all considered fraud, prima facie, they have to disguise. From my opinion, they have to disguise. Certain motives to make it seem like they was doing it for our benefit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why some people say that these are the best things that could have happened, or somebody might look at it from that perspective. So what they basically did was create a vessel, a fictitious vessel, which people consider to be the straw man or the corporation or the artificial corporation. With the trust being formed and the Social Security account being attached, a corporation or that vessel was created, which would be your name in all capital letters, or your straw man, or your corporate fiction, which is the commercial side of your estate, in so many words. Now, without knowledge of these things, they have been able to control it and just switch the role that you naturally have as the beneficiary into making you the trustee, meaning that the trustee always pay the bills in the trust relationship. The bills and liabilities are left on the trustee, which is the handler of the asset. So through hypothecation, they switch the roles around and make you liable for things that you would not be liable for in your true role as a beneficiary of these accounts, of these trust relationships, I should say.
so for you all, these definitions that we're going over is very important, and the reason why we're going over them is because it's going to bring you back full circle to nationality. So the definitions that you hear us talk about tonight and what we discuss, always keep in mind that regardless of all of this, it all goes right back to nationality. Claiming your nationality, because all these things that you hear that we're talking about is what's going on right now, under our nose and our face, and we have no clue of it because we have no knowledge of it. So that's why we have to wake up. We have to wake up and start studying. We have to wake up and start doing our research. Don't even take our word for it. The things that you hear us say tonight, the words and the definitions that you hear, go look them up. Do your research on it. Get it for your own understanding. Don't just listen to us. You know, we all are still studying and researching and trying to find our way as well. But what we do know, what we have to understand, that we don't want to be lost at sea. And we don't want to be dead and raw. We don't want to be black, Negro, or color. We do want to claim our nationality and be on the land that is our birthright. So now, did you have any other? What's the other word?
Usurp. Let's look up usurpation and usurp so we can get a clear understanding of what that means.
Okay, you're going to have to give me the spelling of that.
USURPATION. All right, first I'm going to start with usurp. Usurp, to seize and hold any office by force and without right, applied to seizure of office, place, function, powers, rights, etc. State ex rel. Oh, that's a law case. But anyway, what it says here, to seize or hold any office by force without right. And that's why I said office, key word being office. The office of the executor of the estate. You see what I'm saying? The office of the executor. Because once again, a trust relationship is formed. So within that trust, you have these public officials acting as trustees. You have yourself, which is supposed to be the beneficiary, and you have them usurping or using usurpation to fraudulently put themselves in the position of the executor of the estate. That's why the word office is key to me, or stands out to me, because the office of the estate, the highest office in the estate is the executor's office. Right. So what they're doing is usurping your estate by acting as what is called executor de consort, meaning that they are assuming the role, self-appointed role as the executor. That's what judges do all the time in these court cases. They act as if they are the executor of the estate, and basically list themselves as unqualified heirs to the estate in order to make taxable determinations on an alternate carryover basis. But
so how important? So how? Because a lot of people have like wills and what did I say? Like attorneys that takes care of all of their estates. Now, can you kind of like give us an enlightenment on that? Like, what is their role?
The role of an attorney?
Or like the probate court, or like the power of attorney. Don't they get a chance to
usurp you too?
Exactly.
Basically, yes, that's what they were. That's what they're designed for. See, that's what I'm saying. We have to look at this as a whole scheme, a whole perpetual scheme. It's not isolated events. It's not one small part over here, one small part over there. It's how the system is working together to rob us of everything we know and believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to steal your whole existence. They want you to be no more than a cow on a farm or a chicken. They don't want you to think or understand or ever come into your true self or your true ancestral history. I use the word history cognitive. But they don't want you to ever understand your true potential or the true essence of being a man or a woman. So through all of these tactics, they bring you off of the land and make you believe that you are that fictitious corporation. That's why they steal your landmark when you're a baby. They steal your birthright by disconnecting to your ancestral lineage, which means you are uninheritable. Because if you don't have a nationality and something that ties you to the land and the attributes of that land, you are uninheritable. Just like if you was a signature or a signee to a will, if you didn't know the name of the people or the name of your family name, then you would be disenfranchised, disconnected from that inheritance. So it's no different. we as the actual indigenous nobles of the land have no connection without knowledge of who we are as first as self, and then as what is called jus sanguinis, meaning blood ties. That means to be tied to the land by blood, birthright. So it's about them creating a fraudulent system, using you as the collateral, which is the battery to power it, and then keeping you dumb enough to live out your life and die quietly while being usurped through the whole time of your existence. They never give you no real money. They never give you no true ownership, which they don't have the ability to give to you no way. But they never allow you to come, or they never assist you in coming into the knowledge of these things.
Now, it's something that you say, and it makes so much sense when you say it. When you say, how is it that once we die, our will is so important?
How is it?
Yeah, you know how you say, how as your will as is, as on earth. Like,
As it is in heaven?
Yes.
Yes, I use that as an example because, like I say, school, like I told you before, school or no university, no college you go to is ever going to give you knowledge as far as something as simple as writing a will. But if you were or are able to somehow in the course of your life come across that information, you know that if I write a will, then upon my passing over, my wishes would be carried out as I left information for it. So that's you basically taking executorship of your estate at that moment. You don't realize it, but your signature is the most powerful tool that you have. So being the executor over that estate, you are able to write out your will. Now, if you write in your will that my left shoe go to my son in California and my right shoe to go to my daughter in Florida, upon your passing, your will will be carried out by those same attorneys because they have to acknowledge your last wishes. Once again, wishes as a king that you are. They acknowledge that and they carry it out. So that makes you wonder, or you should ask yourself from that point, but damn, if I'm that powerful when I'm dead, how powerful really am I while I'm still alive?
That's what I want you to say.
Right.
That's what I want you to think.
And they don't want you to ever come into that understanding or that thought process. Because all of this is about being that sovereign power to control your own affairs, being in complete control of yourself, your body, and your estate, and your own estate-related affairs. So as what they consider 3/5 of a man in law, or not in law, in legalese, I should say. And actually they address us as dead entities all the time. Our so-called fictitious corporation is a dead entity. That's your name in all capital letters. You only see capital letters on tombstones and corporation. Corporation is a dead entity, meaning a corpse in operation. So your name, your given name or appellation that was given to you by your parents and written one way on the birth certificate was then through hypothecation turned into that fictitious vessel or corporation.
So, for some of the people that's just coming into this awakening and they just starting off, before we get back to the rest of our definitions, can you tell me, and I know we're still learning every day, but how was your journey when you first started? Like when you first awakened on all of this? Like was it hard when you started walking in that nationality, or was it pretty easy for you?
Well, me personally, I always had a why factor. I always had the why question since I was young. So me being a kid or child or young, I always had a question of authority. Like I was always,
Just want to know. Want to know.
yeah, why? Because things didn't make sense. It didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a reason why I fell asleep in history class. It was a reason why I was more enthused about math and reading and learning and things that could actually help me prosper instead of, because I believe that the truth is in our DNA
Mm-hmm.
anyway, through our ancestors and the land and where we come from. So once we start hearing certain things and certain things touch our conscience, we automatically become more attuned to them than we are some things that we know is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, as I came into my awakening, it was like right exactly what I needed, because it was validation for me for all of the things that I felt and not the things that I was just taught or told to believe or accept or understand. Not understand either. Just take for face value. Like we was all put here or born here with the assumption or under the assumption that this corporation and all these different alphabet groups, FDA and FBI and CI, all of them had our best interests in hand. But the truth is, once we understand these games and things that they have done to perpetuate and to usurp our estates and hypothecate us as chattel,
Go back to have high pocket cake.
right? Once we understand how they did these things and what they've been doing to us and our seeds still to come through contracts and fraud, then the picture become clear that none of this shit was designed for our benefit. Everything was designed to stop us from reaching our true potential and to keep us in the state where we are considered subjects instead of nationals and nobles of the land. So, like they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And the reason they say that is because, well, one of the reasons they say that is because through our own ignorance, meaning sustaining the lack of knowledge, not a derogatory term, but just depicting the things that we haven't learned yet, we are able to be taken advantage of by the same entities that we would like to assume that was there or put in place for our benefit.
That's interesting. Now, before we get to another definition, can we like lightly touch on the power of our signature? A lot of us really don't know the power of our signature. And it goes all the way back from when we were just a kid and our parents had to sign a note just for us to go back to school.
Well, it goes, the signature, the power, the reason your signature is powerful within commerce is because it ain't no money. There is no money. The only lawful money is gold and silver. Was gold and silver from the creation or the time of the beginning of the Constitution. No state shall abridge or use any currency, or what is it? The word I'm trying to. No state shall coin no other currency other than gold and silver. Paraphrase. So when they took the gold, what they did, what the Service Corporation did in 1933, was basically took the gold by, once again, trickery, by making citizens of the corporation believe. First, they had to take them out of a private status, because when the government said in 33 that everybody was supposed to turn in their gold in exchange for Federal Reserve notes, they couldn't make an order that went against the Constitution. In the first place, it's null and void on it. It's null and void on its face. So what they do is address the subjects and the citizens, and without you knowing that that shit ain't in reference to you, you liable to fall victim as well. So when they say all persons must turn in, they go. If you don't understand the separation between persons and people, you would think that that was a new law that was for you. You see what I'm saying? But being a person and being one of the people is completely two different statuses. A person, once again, being a corporation, is a fiction, a fictitious entity. So even though you have a person that was created through that SSKV trust and your birth certificate, you are not that person, or you shouldn't be that person. You have to make the substantial difference to separate yourself, meaning that you are a living, breathing man or woman that was given dominion by the Most High over the earth, over the world. So that the creation of that person or that corporate vessel, and then the necessary trickery that was lodged in order to make you get into the vessel, is what took us from the top of the food chain and put us in the bottom.
Did we do chattel? We talk about chattel, which derived from cattle, right?
Yeah, I want to be able to look the terms up too, though. We talk about it, and I'm giving my brief synopsis, but I want the definitions to come forth so that this ain't just me talking. You know what I'm saying? These are some important terms that everybody, I think, should be familiar with and know exactly what they are when they hear them.
I agree.
I got on here, we started with the Organic Act of 1871. And that's an important starting point.
Yeah, 1871.
As to understanding motive and what the whole structural design of this corporation had become at that time. So when we doing business, or when we accepting benefits or privileges or whatever you want to call them from the United States, we have to know what entity we dealing with, because we just assume that they're government. It's a little more than assuming, because you've been taught to believe from birth that they were government. And that's a big difference, because a government is a sovereign entity. It wasn't born sovereign or made sovereign. It becomes sovereign through the sovereign people vesting their sovereign abilities and powers into the government to make and control and decide laws or rules or regulations to for the benefit of the whole nation is the way that it's originally designed. A body politic that's given sovereignty from the people. But once they become a corporation to do business for profit, they have a charter, they have owners, they have different motives and different a different set of beneficiaries than the people, other than the people.
Are the people. Now, what about why do they always want us to check off citizen? Everything that we have, they always want you to check off you are a citizen or you are black. Why do you think they always want us to do that? Before we do anything, before we can get a car, get an ID, get a job, apply for a house.
So let me ask you this: why do you think that they don't just tell you you're a citizen? Because self-identification. You are who you say you are. So they give you an opportunity to find who you are. So once they give you that application or that piece of paper, they are giving you an opportunity to put yourself in the trick bag. You see what I'm saying?
So they won't say that they did it. You did it to yourself because you had an opportunity to give us your status.
Exactly. And they know that you as a melanated individual, or I want to stay away from the word individual, but you as a melanated one of the people was never eligible to be a citizen of a foreign corporation doing business on this land. See, one of the things that we have to substantiate a difference in is the United States being a corporation and the actual ground that we standing on being known as America at this time, because they are not the same thing. You cannot be an American and a United States citizen at the same time, because what they are asking on them applications is for you to give up being an American and become a subject to this foreign corporation. Exactly. Citizens are subjects to whatever they pledge an allegiance to. So if you are pledging your allegiance to the Bar Association, which these judges and lawyers do all the time, for example, they cease to be citizens of the United States. Now they are citizens of the bar, or citizens of the British Accredited Registry, I would say. So you cannot be an American, meaning one of the soil, and a participant to a foreign corporation at the same time. So without sense of self, without that understanding of who you and your forefathers are and how you are connected to the land, you automatically just raised to believe you're a citizen until it's time to get the benefit of a citizen. Then they show you, because before the 14th Amendment, melanated people weren't able to be considered citizens at all. We couldn't even be considered citizens of the fake corporation. So when they came up with the 14th Amendment, it was to incorporate a second-class citizen, which means, okay, we'll let them think that they are part of this corporation, but we ain't gonna give them no benefits or no acknowledgement as real citizens. But being a citizen is something that shouldn't want to be no way.
Right. That's what I'm going to touch on it, because there's a big difference between a citizen and a national. Like, it kind of goes back to when you are a citizen, and say you bought a home, but you're a citizen. You still don't own a home, because under you being a citizen, it still belongs to this fictitious corporation, right?
Through registration. through the hypothecation of your estate.
Hypothecate again, y'all.
Right. So anything that you buy or have, or even an idea that you come up with, you can go to sleep and wake up with an idea to open up a new business. If you incorporate or register that business, registration, that's another word. We gonna have to go to. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Registration, meaning or stemming from the word regis. Regis meaning pertaining to the royal estate. So once again, these are estate-related affairs. So if you have a child or purchase a vehicle and you register, you are not enlisting that item into your own sovereign or personal estate of trust. You are registering it with the you know what I'm saying, you registering it with the royal estate. You are enlisting it into the royal estate. Word meaning regis. You want to look that up?
We gotta look at the law dictionary. Alright. I'll put up here, look up regis under Black Law Dictionary, 4th edition. You know, while he's looking it up, that's just like you buy a car with your money, your hard-earned money. But as soon as you get your car, what do you have to do? Register it to the Secretary of State. So the power of the signature, you sign your car over to the state to the point that it no longer belongs to you. If you don't, something happened, they can come and take your car, they could put a lien on it, threaten to take it. So how, when you bought something with your hard-earned money, they can come and just take it from you? That goes back to the power of the signature, because we signed or we registered it over to the state, the Secretary of State, right?
Yes. Okay, so the word regis itself isn't in here.
It's not on there.
Not regis. I'm gonna look it up on right here.
I'm gonna pull up the dictionary and see what I get. Let's see. I know it is the saying that it is a Latin. Regis means Latin. Let's see. It's a lot of different words for regis that's popping up. Regis, register.
Okay, regis, Latin for of the king, occurs in numerous English place names. The name usually recalls the historical ownership of land or manors by the crown. So, to register your items or ideas or offspring means to transfer it from your estate to of the king's estate or the crown. So, once again, the trick is perpetuated through bar attorneys and British accredited registry workers or agents to attorn you. That's why when you buy a house, they want you to go to a title company or go through a title company or some type of lawyer or some type of, because they're never going to record your deeds for you to reflect your true ownership, meaning and allodium. They're never going to acknowledge you as a real owner to anything, or having the abilities to sustain true ownership. So they are going to attorn, which means to turn over. They're going to assist you in that.
And see, we don't know the power in that either, because when something happens and go wrong, the first thing you do is go run to an attorney.
Right.
Not knowing that they all is in the ball together with each other.
Exactly. And you can see the fraud perpetuated because the first any legal dispute you have, the police or the judge or anybody going to tell you, well, if you don't understand, seek legal advice or get you an attorney, because they are able to hide behind that veil. The attorney, see, the crown, you have to understand what the crown is as well. The crown meaning not just the Queen of England or the royal estate. The crown is the Bar Association also. All of the Bar Association, the British Accredited Registry, all of that is the crown as a whole, or as entities of the same bird. So this is the reason why we have attorneys at law and not in law, because it's a difference between being in the river and at the river. When you at the river, you just on the side of it. When you in the river, you actually wet. So they are attorneys at law and not in law, because they don't deal with law. The reason why all of everything is codified, the United States Code, the Michigan Code, the IRS Code, everything is codified because, right, because it's designed to escape average understanding. They create a system that's made to appear to be so what's the word, so difficult to understand or so complex that the average layman can't comprehend in appearance, when the true real law is substantiated by maxims, and it's simple to understand.
Is that a word we should look up to?
Maxims?
Maximus?
Maxims? No, not. I wouldn't say maximus.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what topic we talking about, but maxims in this inference is related to law and principles. Maxims is the same as principles. So when you're talking about maxims of law, we're talking about stare decisis and prima facie things that are automatically established without further understanding being or necessary. So maxims is fundaments. You see what I'm saying? All law is everything is derived off the maxims of law. So legalese is just like if you look at this table, the ground that we standing on would be considered the law, the common law. This table would be built, and this may be trust law. So this book, I would say this tablecloth that's over it, that's legalese. It's a blanket covering what is real law. Still standing on the ground. It's still derived from the ground we standing on. Like you can't get rid of the substance, but you can blanket it with a whole different directive. So therefore, you come being born right here and land on this table, you don't touch the ground. You land on top of legalese. So you are only indoctrinated to be able to comprehend what it is that you can see and touch, not knowing that the real law still exists up under all this bullshit.
Well, that's because what happened was it became legal or not lawful.
Right. Legal can be lawful, but lawful can't be legal.
Can't be legal.
Right. Or lawful supersedes legal. Now, meaning that The law is what it is, and legalese can trick you out of law and make you end up somewhere you serve.
He going back to usurp and hypothecate. No matter what happens.
We gonna have to really break that down. Usurpation, usufruct. I want to get into what plausible deniability is.
Plausible deniability. Plausible. What you said?
Plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability.
Because that's one of their favorite tools. Let's look that up right quick.
Okay. So now we're about to look up plausible deniability. Plausible deniability. Now I'm going to Google, but are you going to the Black Law Dictionary? Because on Google it says plausible deniability is the ability of people, typically senior officials in a formal or informal chain of command, to deny knowledge of or responsibility for any damnable actions committed by members of their organizational hierarchy. And then it has one that says, what is a plausible deniability system? Plausible deniability is a property of deniable file system, which is the DFS, which are encrypted using a plausibly deniable encryption scheme, where one cannot prove the existence of a hidden file system within it. This paper investigates widely used security models that are commonly employed for analyzing DFS, which is deniable file systems.
Right.
Now, you got
Keep
one
going.
from
You
the
got
Black
another
Law
one?
Dictionary?
Let me see. No, I don't think that's gonna be in here.
No, it says, is plausible deniability a legal term? Plausible deniability is defined by the dictionary, but is not technically a legal term or defined in any legal document, which makes it a much looser term than it sounds. On top of that, plausible doesn't mean trustworthy, possible, or even likely.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in this Black Law.
You know,
But basically, it's their favorite instrument. Because soon as you bring the law forth or bring these understandings in law forth, judges, politicians, even the freaking president or so-called president of the United States stand behind plausible deniability, meaning that they use a system of codes and secret ethics to deny knowledge of what you're talking about. They plausibly deny our existence as Moors and Aboriginal indigenous people to the land. They plausibly deny usurping our estates. They plausibly deny being or having allegiance to a foreign corporation or to the British accredited registry. So they are able to lie to you to your face. That's what plausible deniability is. They are able to deny your understanding or your evidence or proof. No fact is ever heard in court because they have a system which is designed around obscuring the facts. So
we just had that conversation. Sorry for cutting you off, but when it said they have no facts, we just had this conversation. Is that why lawyers can't put stuff on the record?
Right, because it's a system that's designed by crackers. Just imagine you're building a big building out of crackers, and the truth being water. If you put some water on that entity, the whole structure is liable to crumble.
Exactly. It's going to crumble.
Exactly. So truth will be the water. They not going to allow no truth to ever go into evidence because case history set precedent, meaning that one sprinkle of water could lead to a whole
Domino effect.
Exactly.
Everything.
Right.
That means that the land that we stand on, which is lawful, and this table with the tablecloth that's legal, this table and the tablecloth will eventually go away, and then the lawful will be exalted.
Will still be standing because it's all built on that in the first place.
Right.
That's the foundation.
Right.
Right. So the plausible deniability is used to deny everything that you think you know and allow them to stand behind a veil, like the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz. Yes.
And it's one of they, like I said, one of their favorite tools because
now, can we just talk a little bit of the Wizard of Oz? And the reason why I say that because that goes back to the Redemption Manual, 5th edition, when it talks about the Wizard of Oz. And
break that down.
That's like peeling back a lot of stuff.
A lot of truths. People say that the Wizard of Oz was a metaphorical.
Definitely was.
Right.
Definitely was.
It was trying to expose, from the time that it was created, it was exposing this game or this illusion that was being perpetuated by this fraudulent banking system.
Throwing 10 men without a heart and a brain.
Right, when they took the gold and Dorothy had to follow the yellow brick road, which represented the gold, and her way back to the gold. Back to a gold standard. Us back to a gold standard, which was the Bretton and Woods Agreement. So basically, to make a long story short,
if Dorothy knew the power of her heels,
right,
to just click them,
right, Dorothy never knew that the power existed within her the whole time to find her way home, just like it exists within all of us.
Right.
But
claim your nationality.
right, but we have to go through things. We have to go through our own experience, because if Dorothy was just told this shit before she actually went through it, she wouldn't have understood it. If Dorothy was just told, well, wake up, girl, click your heels 3 times, she wouldn't have understood that. She wouldn't possess that power. She had to go through the actual experiences and develop the severity to know what it even mean to want to go back home. You know?
Everybody wanted those slippers. They wanted those shoes.
Those shoes, those ruby slippers. Yeah. I think the book said that they even changed the color, right? Because they was originally silver.
Yeah.
But that was too evident as something as far as the silver slippers on the gold road. So they changed it to ruby or something. But the message is still there. The message that everything is new.
If the ruby slipper represents our blood, our birthright, too.
Perhaps.
Think about it.
Perhaps. But the overall point being that this so-called government don't have the power that is depicting to have all the time.
But this government is
the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz. If you pull back
the curtain, you see, what was it? It was a little bitty Jewish motherfucker behind the curtain pulling a whole lot of fake strings.
Yes, and having everybody think.
Right, that he was almighty.
Yeah.
when really
Oh my
the power
God.
was vested in you the
Y'all
whole
gotta
time.
go back and rewatch The Wizard of Oz. Or The Wiz. Yes.
Yeah, the Wiz kind of switched it up a little bit, but the message was still,
Yeah.
still the
But
same.
see, yeah. But Total still pulled back the covers and exposed the government.
Exposed, right? That they're really this little helpless man behind the curtain that's pulling all of these strings to create this great illusion and disillusion.
Okay. Do we have any other words that we needed to look up on our list?
Yeah. We looked up on usufruct. Usufruct. It is just what it sounds like. When you get you are fruct.
You know you're gonna have to spell that.
U.S. U. F-R-U-C-T. Usufruct. In civil law, the right of enjoying a thing, the property of which is vested in another. Let me say that again. In civil law, the right of enjoying a thing, the property of which is vested in another, and to draw from the same all of the profit, utility, and advantage which it may produce, provided it be without altering the substance of the thing. Right. So you being the beneficiary of that trust account that was created for you, for your benefit, so-called, by them claiming executor of your estate, they then usufruct you so that they can steal the benefit of the beneficiary and make themselves the beneficiary. So first they usurp your estate, and then they usufruct.
They usurped it, then fucked us.
Right. Usufruct. So under Greek law, a right attached to a person which may not be inherited. Okay. Imperfect usufruct.
So, with the definition of usufruct, is a lot of that still going on right now today?
Oh, it's definitely going on every day. Every time you sign your signature or attach your signature to a piece of paper, I'm understanding, meaning especially checks or applications, or they are usufructed you, meaning they are taking your signature basically off that paper and using it to their benefit, how they want. Every time you sign your signature, you are creating a negotiable instrument. Right. And they are taking those instruments and monetizing through a debt currency system, because there is no money, once again. So debt is the real money, or debt is what they use to equivalate value or accumulate value.
Equivocate. Allow us that there is no real money.
Well, Federal Reserve notes, all we know of is money. Some of us have never seen real money. Real gold coins, gold and silver. So all we know is the paper. Paper meaning negotiable instruments. $10 bill, and then that's also a big difference. We call them bills because at one point in the past, before they came off the Bretton Woods Agreement, see, in 33 they took the gold, and then in 71 they turned around and took the silver. which got us completely off the Bretton Woods agreement. We can look that up too. You can look up what the Bretton Woods agreement is.
So again, for anybody that just chimed in with us, we are discussing nationality. We are just freestyling and talking about a lot of things. We want you all to keep in mind that everything that you hear us converse about ties back to and leads back to nationality. So just in case you're wondering, how y'all talking about hypothecate has to do with nationality? How you all talking about lawful and legal means nationality? How you all talking about usurp goes with nationality? These are words that you can study, research, and look up, because in your awakening and in your teachings and studying and researching, it's going to all come back and make sense why nationality is important.
Right, I had to go get my little leprechaun back.
Your leprechaun full of gold. You
Right.
got your silver in there too?
No, this is just gold. Hold it up. Can you see it?
Yeah. Turn it on. Now, you want to know something that's so sad? Is a lot of us, you have to show up here too. We want to show up here too for the IG. A lot of us had grandparents that used to collect silver and gold, and we could never understand, why do my grandfather got a bag full of coins or bags full of gold, bags full of silver? Because that's what the real money is, not this fiat. Yeah, not this fiat. This is what the real money is.
So basically, through the Uniform Commercial Code, they created a whole backdoor secret system on how commerce would be done without there being lawful money in circulation. Meaning that everything became paper and negotiable instruments. And they had to make it uniform so that so that it'd be unity in doing commerce from state to state, from territory to territory. So with that system, they came up, or they created a way to exchange value, to create debt, to do everything in commerce through paper and endorsements. And that ties back or goes back to the power of your signature. Because by it not being any actual money in circulation, this Social Security trust account was actually, the account is induced by the IMF, which is the Internal Monetary or International Monetary Fund, which is international bankers, like one of the biggest of the international bankers. So that account, or that bank account, which is what it is created, once again, using your birth certificate as a collateral. So even though the Social Security numbers are given to the person, or applied or attached to the person through the Social Security Administration, it's not created or established from the Social Security Administration. It's established, it's an account with the IMF, so that they can control the funds that go in and out. It's a two-way account, and we never had access or knew or was given access freely to those accounts, which we are the beneficiaries of. And your signature is what makes you, or is used as endorsement as the authorized representative of that trust account, that Social Security trust account.
But if you think about it, they put a lot of the stuff right in our face. We just don't know because a lot of us we get a bill. Say we get a DTE bill, but at the bottom of that, we think it's a bill, but it's actually a coupon
Payment.
of payment. And once we really wake up, that's like, is that usufruct?
Yes.
Right in our face.
Right in our face. Yes, because once again, everything is, it ain't no money. And you are the true creditor to the United States. So back to the birth certificate. The fact that we have this large number known as the national debt, right? The national debt, even if you understand accounting, you understand that for every debit, it's a credit as well. So when they talk about the national debt being, what, $29 trillion or some old crazy shit, they never discussed the national credit, because that national debt is an amount that's owed by the United States Service Corporation to all its creditors. Now, the part that's missing from that scenario or that story is that we, as birth certificate holders or birth certificate recipients, are the first creditors to the United States, because we was the collateral. We was used as collateral and hypothecated. So it's just like if I borrow, okay, it's just like if I give you one of these gold coins and you take this gold coin and you use it as collateral to borrow $500 in fiat. Once it's time for you to pay your debts, yeah, you got to pay the person that you got the $500 in fiat from. But you got to pay the person that you got the gold coin from first. You see what I'm saying? You owe me first. Off of whatever you do off that $500, you may have to pay them back too, but you owe me first because I'm the one that put up the original value. Meaning that I'm the principal. I'm the one that Maximus. Principal.
Is the same as like principles. These definitions and these words together. Okay.
I'm the actual principal, meaning the originator of the transaction, the source upon which the energy was originally generated. So we, as first one of the people, second as authorized representatives of the trust accounts, third as holders of the birth certificates, are the first creditors to the United States Service Corporation. So we are never in debt. We don't have debts because this system was based and designed off of using our credits and hypothecating our estates. So debt is non-existent to us or anyone with a birth certificate, I would say. So that's one level of the fraud, the birth certificate. Now a deeper level is when they usurp your nationality from you, because that disenfranchises you to the largest, the most vast estate in the world, meaning connections to the Moroccan Empire, which gave way for all of this shit to take place. So it's like Walmart being built in your backyard. When you go inside of Walmart, you may still be charged taxes or required to perform by certain administrative policies inside of Walmart. But it don't change the fact that y'all built this shit on my land. So at the end of the year, I could pay your taxes today, but at the end of the year, you owe me. So really what you need to do is just deduct it from what you owe me. You see what I'm saying? But they will charge you all your damn life and never ever pay you what is owed to you, meaning the residuals and dividends that are accumulated over all these years from monetization of your signature and hypothecation of your estate and birth certificate. So you never receive what is called the dividends and residuals from all of those accounts and all of those different monetization activities that has been taking place.
Now, what about having a trust account? Would that help with that? Or would that eliminate some of the things that they do to us?
Well, the importance of trust from my standpoint is a trust is a way, or what I've learned is the only way to be able to pass down generational wealth or to have true ownership. Because look at it this way, the United States Service Corporation, the Inc. Service Corporation, has put itself in place to administer and control your estate or all of Moorish estates on his land. And what was the question again?
Is it helpful to have the trust? Does that help
eliminate
them from doing
right.
things?
So them being an entity, a legal entity, I should say.
Not lawful?
Definitely not lawful. De facto, actually.
De facto.
Right. At one point they were lawful, meaning de jure, and then they became de facto, which is not pertaining to the original law, but de facto meaning only existing in fact, but not in truth. So even though you may see it, it's factual that it's there, but it's not the truth. It's not real. It's not de jure. It's not organic. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So to formulate a trust is a way of removing or accumulating your assets in an entity that's separate. It should be private, should be or non-statutory. Could be revocable or irrevocable, but your own entity, just like a will is a form of a trust. Everything is almost can be defined as a trust. The Constitution is a trust. But to formulate your own trust is first reaching competency, meaning that I understand enough about economics, about commerce, about my estate related affairs, to control and handle my own estate related affairs. So instead of me vesting and registering my property, my ideas, and my offspring to this service corporation, I can formulate an entity myself that's capable of controlling my assets. And that's what the purpose of the trust would be, if it's designed correctly, to separate your assets from the de facto corporation.
De facto. And how is it a de facto corporation?
Because they cease to be de jure. When they gave up the sovereignty of the government. See, the United States was originally had sovereign powers, meaning, like I told you, sovereignty comes from the people. So the people invested their sovereignty into a government, or the so-called United States of America government, to be a de jure governing body, if that makes sense. And when they gave that up to become a corporation and do business for profit instead of for the people, they became de facto, which is a creature that wasn't created or authorized through the Constitution. And they also changed the Constitution. That's very, very important to understand too. Within the Act of 1871, when they created a de facto corporation, they rewrote the Constitution. They didn't rewrite it. What they did was amend it, secretively amend it. They changed it to a corporate charter. The Constitution, it was originally the Constitution for the United States of America. And after, because the story go deeper. After they assassinated President Lincoln in, what was that, 1865, I believe. After they assassinated Lincoln, well, before Lincoln died, something with the war, I want to say the Civil War or whatever, them fighting over the Union, the North beefing with the South. They said that 20 states or something of the South walked out of Congress, putting them in a state called Senadia, which means they had no ability to legislate, pass, or create any laws. So what they did was, that's when Lincoln declared martial law and made himself chief commander or executive chief, which means he had the ability not to make laws, but to write executive orders. He became the commander-in-chief. That's the term I'm looking for, which meant that he could write executive orders. Under a war state, though, in order for him to become commander-in-chief, he had to declare martial law under a state of war, state of emergency. So what they did was secretively fill the abandoned positions within the Congress and the government with those of a de facto status and an ulterior motive. And I would say it go back farther than that, because the whole idea was to overthrow or to extinguish the state of the Union or of the new free land. Because by them being colonizers, breaking away from Great Britain and the king at that time, and coming over here to newly acquired free sovereign land, with permission from the Moroccan Sultan to do business on this land and to act under the same sovereignty that the original Moors had here. And that's why that banner, that United States banner, is not a flag of the land, but it's a banner that represents admiralty in commerce. I mean, it represents amnesty in commerce. Meaning meaning that we befriended them and allowed them to do business as equals on our land.
Now, a lot of people always talk about that we might be going into martial law, but haven't we always been in martial law this whole
Yes,
time?
we've always been in
And
martial law.
that's why
Not
we have,
always, but we've been in martial law since the death of Lincoln, because Lincoln was never able to.
right.
Lincoln never.
But that's why a
He
lot of
died
people do
before.
research.
What it is he died before he could reverse what he had already started.
Right.
So since Lincoln, every president has been declaring a state of war on something. We always at the state of war because that's what keeps them in position as commander in chief.
Right.
Because without being commander in chief, without us being in the state of some type of war, we would go back to the original de jure government that was in place.
Ooh, it'll be de jure, not de facto.
Yes.
So I do want a lot of you all to do your research on that too, because I heard a lot of people that always say we gotta embrace ourselves because we're about to go into martial law, but we've been in martial law. So do your research, study. While you're looking up things that have to do with nationality, look up the martial law as well. Don't take my word, don't take his word for it. Do your research and study. We don't want you to just listen to whatever we tell you all and just go off of that research. Because once you go down that rabbit hole and swallow that red pill, a lot is gonna come to the surface. And once that comes to the surface, it's gonna be hard to go back. Once the truth comes to the forefront, it's hard to go back. And then you're gonna look up and look around, and everything you see, you're gonna be like, all of this shit is a fraud. Like everything you look at, you're like, all of this shit is a fraud. Everything we've been doing is a fraud. What you doing is a fraud. But that's what they want us not to do, is wake up. Because once we wake up and realize who we are and the importance of a nation and nationality, there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. So please
The
do your
curtain
research
come
and
off.
study. What'd you say?
I say the curtain come on.
Yeah, the curtains come off. The true meaning of the Wizard of Oz will be exposed. The wizard.
Right.
So yeah. So please research, study, take these words we have given you all, look them up, write them down, and keep them in the back of your mind, because you're going to come across them. And everything that's coming to the forefront right now again. So research and study. Don't take our word for it. We're not some of those people that say, hey, you got to come over here and do this with us and do it this way. We are still learning every day as we go. And this is a learning process. And I'm new to it. Brother Ray Hill has been in it, and he's still studying and learning.
Oh,
So
every
it's
day.
nonstop. It's nonstop. Do we have any other definitions we want to look up? So we talked about looking up the definitions of chattel. What about, you don't think they should look up de facto and de jure?
Absolutely.
Because I think that's a good one. And usurp.
Usurp, usufruct. I just didn't want to overwhelm with too many. You know, when you go to school, if they give you 4 definitions to look up, you be like, oh, okay. But if they give you 20 definitions, you're gonna be like, so just a little at a time.
Right. Oh my God. Okay. Well, it's coming to 9:30. We can do some final words.
You ain't got no questions? Any more questions or anything? I don't know. We jumped around.
Well, a lot of the things that you said, a lot of the meanings that you gave, like I said again, it all goes back to nationality. So just in case you all is wondering how these words and nationality plays a role, it plays a lot.
I want to make sure it all tie back in. That's what I'm
in.
saying. Like from the birth certificate to the importance. Back again, once again, I don't know if we touched enough on the importance of that nationality.
Okay. how about we touch on the importance of, since you said it in, that birth certificate?
The importance of the birth certificate?
What I mean by that is what it has done to us. Us signing that birth certificate, us ladies, to us women, because once we birth our nation, see, and that's kind of hard too. Like I said, we learn as we go. The birth certificate.
Okay, birth. We have to look at the terms, or be careful with the terms that we use.
Yeah.
Because birth, okay, the word birth, it originally derived from birth, spelled B-E-R-T-H. And that's a admiralty term dealing with laws of the sea, or the high seas, I should say. So in admiralty, when the ship reaches a port, is when the ship docks or reaches the dock, is birth, or it gives birth. Meaning that each item, say like this ship carrying 500 TVs, that mean that ship, once it reached that port, birthed 500 TVs, B-E-R-T-H. So each one of those TVs will be given a warehouse number, or a birth number. You see what I'm saying? And a certificate of birth. Meaning that on this day, this ship birthed 500 TVs. This TV is number 137. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So they took those terms and admiralty applications and applied it to the real living men and women. So you got to understand, you got the sea, then you got the land. You got the land of the law of the sea, or the law of the waters, the high waters, which is admiralty. Then you got the law of the land, which is man law, common law, the way things are done through word of the Creator. Then you have the shoreline, where the sea meets the land. This is where all merchants, where all commerce take place, where merchants do their business. So you had three types of law. You had admiralty law, you had maritime law, which is merchant law, and then you had the law of the land.
Now, does that tie back in? Because when you breaking that up for me, it makes me think about in law and at law. So that's all of that tying together when you say you are at the sea and not in the sea.
Yes, somewhat, I would say.
It just made me think about that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain jurisdiction at this moment, because,
okay,
like I said, the law of the sea, this is the high seas. This is considered, I want to almost say civil law, admiralty law, which the crown or whatever was said to control. The king controlled the high seas. Look at it that way. When land meets water, it's considered the shoreline. You know what I'm saying? Where all commerce take place. The space in the middle. That's maritime law. Right. So when the merchants on the shoreline start using the king money to conduct and handle their transactions, it combined the two laws, because if you use the king money, then you give them jurisdiction. So it became admiralty maritime law. That's how the two combined. By using the king's money to handle merchants' business, it became admiralty maritime law. Still not the law of the land, but that's why they had to create a system to pull you off the land and bring you into the sea. First into the shore of commerce, and then into the sea.
Those are two good words that they should look up too. Admiralty and maritime.
Definitely. I just explained what they was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to voice that and let that be known. Those are some good definitions to look up. Because jurisdiction, and look up jurisdiction.
I told you the Cesta KV trust.
Yeah.
That's admiralty law. That's when the person is lost at sea. So that's them taking that and tying it and applying it to us as living, breathing men and women on the land. But they can't do it. You have to understand that they can't come out the water and approach you as a
Right.
living, breathing woman on the land. But they can make you believe that you are this vessel that we finna pull out here.
So they can make me believe that I am a citizen.
Right. Right. A citizen first. Yeah. Same thing. A citizen is a creature in admiralty, I guess you could say.
Wow.
But then it's a different game that's being played in the court. Like, this shit is fraudulent on so many different levels, because when you go to court for a traffic ticket or any kind of so-called case or charge, what they are doing at that moment is constructing a new trust. They formulating a new trust in order to place a lien against your estate. And that's called a constructive trust. So they are actually
Oh, yeah, constructive trust.
constructive
And you had
trust.
express trust.
No, you only have two forms of trust. You have an express trust and an implied trust,
Okay.
meaning that it's either written and expressed in some kind of way. Expressed means we talked about it, we wrote it down. Implied means it's assumed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the forms of trust. But it's several different types of trust. Many different types of trust. But they will come in either those two forms, expressed or implied.
Okay.
So the expressed, well, it's actually, is that expressed or implied? It's implied. No, it's expressed, because the documentation is what actually makes it real. The indictment or the traffic ticket or the whatever the original charging instrument is what they're using to substantiate basis to form the constructive trust. Once again, when you are in a role, you're supposed to be the beneficiary, because you are the principal of all of these different situations. They once again usufruct you so that you become the one liable who told the bill. So them being public trustees, what they are supposed to do by having access through the Fed window or the TTL window, whatever, to those Social Security accounts, they are supposed to be, as trustees, balancing the books, making sure that the correct parties get immersed or held harmless, like indemnified is the word I'm looking for. They're supposed to be indemnifying all parties in these situations as trustees. But what they're doing is putting the liability on you, taking your body as surety. So, right, once again, they're making you further collateral, meaning that a commerce situation may be occurring, but they are enforcing civil procedures with criminal penalties and creating their own jurisdiction. Because as public trustees, they don't have no jurisdiction over real living, breathing men and women. As a corporation, they have no jurisdiction over us as one of the people. So they combine these jurisdictions to create their own, for which is actually no jurisdiction. It's another level of the fraud. And it's all contract. See, they never told us that contract makes the law. So even though you think that you are dealing with a case, a court case, or a citation, or whatever the case may be, it could even be friend of the court.
Mm-hmm.
What they are really doing is forming a trust and a contract, or holding you liable to some type of implied contract. Like when you get a speeding ticket, that's an implied contract, because it's implied that you have a driver's license, you're a citizen, and that you agree to abide by the statutes and codes that we came up with for transportation or for commute.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they take you out of an unalienable right and they put you into a commercial situation by your own agreement, by your own ignorance, acquiescence, and agreement.
Mm-hmm.
They take you out of a lawful de jure right and transfer you into a disposition of operating in commerce. Right. But once again, you got to keep in mind that there is no money. So they're using your body as surety when you're being used as surety, but you are the original principal. Because in order for any of these cases or situations to take place, they require 3 signatures. One from the judge, one from the prosecutor, and one from the principal, which is you. You not knowing that this is going on, you give power of attorney to an attorney, and he provides your signature or the third signature needed to create the bond that's floated against your estate. So a court is nothing different than a bank, meaning that the judge is acting as a bank president, the prosecutor is acting as a bank teller. And all of these so-called charges and cases come in as blank checks. But in order for the check to be processed, it required a signature from that authorized representative.
Or when they always tell you to state your name for the record.
Right.
That's why.
They now you stating your name for the record is you admitting and taking responsibility for being that commercial vessel. Mm-hmm. That vessel has to be present today. Mm-hmm. And you being the principal is what charges the vessel, what gives that energy, that commercial energy to the vessel. So if I just had this empty cup right here and I asked you, are you water? Like, you know what I'm saying? You actually got to be the water to go in the cup to make it a bottle of water. Or else it's just a bottle. But you actually have to be that water. So if I ask you, are you Aquafina? You would say, if your name Aquafina, you would say, yeah, I'm Aquafina. But I mean, you may be named Aquafina by your mother, but just because that Aquafina on that bottle in all capital letters, it don't make that bottle you. Unless you pour yourself into it and make it a full bottle of water, give it that energy. So now it's a bottle of Aquafina and not just a bottle that say Aquafina. You see what I'm saying?
So with you saying that, now again, you all that has chimed in, we are discussing nationality, the importance of nationality, and we're just freestyling and looking up some definitions together and reading them so we know what the definitions mean. So we have went over some words. We went over usurp, chattel. What else we did? We did hypothecate.
Did we look up chattel?
Chattel is derived from cattle. No, we probably could look up chattel. We could look up chattel. We did de jure, de facto. We talked about the Act of 1871, organic. Talked about the INLs. We talked about a lot of different things if you all want to go back and look at it. But did you have any other definitions? It was something I wanted to say to you too, as far as regarding. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say. What is it with the all caps? See, a lot of people don't understand. Like when you get a bill and your name is in all caps, a lot of us don't know the difference. We get that mail, we don't pay attention to those, how it's written out or how it's sent over to us. We just open it up, make payment arrangements, or send the money over and pay the bill off. What does those all caps mean?
Well, the all caps is original. I mean, is a representation of the corporation, the dead corporation, because no corporation or corporate fiction can deal with a living, breathing man or woman. So they can only address your corporation, which is that dead entity, that corpse in operation. Your name in all capital letters is actually some type of code in a filing system. Like it's a code itself. Your name in all capital letters ties you to the Sesta KV Trust. So when you get a bill or you get a license or you get anything, it's addressing that corporation, that person, that persona of you, which is that corporate existence, that in legis, that item summons. Your name in all capital letters is a dead entity, and they use. Look up the dead man statues.
The dead man statues?
Right. They use the dead man statues to address us as dead people or dead corporations, I should say. Dead persons.
Is that going to come up under Google?
It should. Dead man statues.
What means dead man statue? A law bearing the testimony of a person with an interest in an estate regarding any conversation with or any event taking place in the presence of the descendant, called
Decedent.
also Dead Man Act.
Decedent?
Dead Man's Act. Yeah, decedent. Yep, decedent.
So what that is saying is that your birth certificate was also a death certificate.
And also said, wow, this is so crazy. One of them says, can a dead person testify? That's crazy.
Right, but your birth certificate is also a death certificate. You was born on one day and you died when you was birthed.
Yeah.
So everything that they do in regards to addressing you or summoning you or approaching you is dealing with that dead entity and not the living, breathing man or woman.
Wow.
So that's why you get summons to court. You only summons dead people. You summons the dead.
That's crazy. Oh my God. That's why you get summoned to court, but you summons the dead. You
Exactly.
summons the mummies and all those. That's wow.
Right. So they're addressing that dead entity. You as a dead representation of, they're using your live energy to float the corpse. But once again, nationality is important because it separates you from the commercial de facto fraudulent status or system that's in play.
Mm-hmm.
Your nationality ties you back to the land and remove you from the game if used correctly, because it's like playing Monopoly. Like everything that they're doing is Monopoly. They got us playing with fake bank paper.
Mm-hmm.
They got us running around the board, pass and go, playing this game that is designed for the bank to win in the end, inevitably. No matter how many times you go around, no matter how many properties you think you will accumulate, in the end, it's going to the bank. That's just like your estate. If you born, raised, and pass away without reclaiming or learning how to separate your assets and put it in trust, then when you die, your estate and all the assets therein stays vested with the state, meaning that now you go to probate. If there is no will or no primary trust agreement in place upon your passing, then your estate will go to probate, which means the state is coming to collect on their assets that you have accumulated through your lifespan and register to the king's estate.
Wow. So I did just post on our YouTube channel the book, which is American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. So a lot of you that is studying or trying to find your way with nationality, that is one of the books that we recommend you all to go to help with your research and your studying.
And what that is when America, or when this so-called United States acknowledged, or because the United States was the last actual country to adopt or accept the rights to indigenous people. So American Declaration on the Rights to Indigenous People, which was just adopted, what would that say, in 2016.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
So,
I didn't pay attention to that.
Right,
That's
so
crazy.
indigenous people been here for thousands of years, but they just acknowledged the right to indigenous people in 2016,
Wow.
meaning that, okay,
Was that when Pope wrote the letter to Obama too?
Pope wrote the motus proprio. It's called the motus proprio. The Pope wrote that letter to Obama in 2013. So this is them later coming out trying to act like they the good guys once again, acknowledging the shit that they've been supposed to acknowledge, but still not acknowledging it, but still not telling you that it's you. So the Declaration on Rights to the Indigenous People, it go over most people's heads because they don't realize or know that it's even in reference to them.
Right.
They don't know that they are the indigenous people that it's talking about. But this right here is stating the rights that indigenous people have, meaning they have a right to be left the fuck alone. They have a right not to be usurped. They have a right to own land. On top of that, the fact that you used our birth certificates to generate, or you use me as collateral for the birth certificate to generate all the electricity, all the water, all the credits, all the automobiles, all the houses. No, the fact that you use me in the first place for that means that I'm the first creditor. I have a right to enjoy the fruits of these things without your false taxation. You see what I'm saying? Because the system is set up. Like I say, they playing chess on the worldwide level. They go into, on a big scale, they go into countries and basically rob the indigenous people of the land and sell them back their resources.
But we should automatically know that. That's just like back in the day, we was taught how the pilgrims, how the pilgrims and the Indians and the land, how all of that was stolen. We always hear history about something being stolen from someone.
Well, we heard about it, but we wasn't taught anything because They had us, or they have even to this day, have us celebrating things like Thanksgiving, where the pilgrims pillaged the Indians, and we celebrating that shit. But they never told us that we was the Indians. We was the motherfuckers that was getting pillaged. We was the ones that was coming up short. They never told us that we were celebrating our own demise. They never told us that part, that we were the indigenous people of the land. Indian is another misnomer, another word that's put in place for their advantage, for them to categorize a certain group of people that they choose to acknowledge. And then through that, they get to steal the birthright again. They get to acknowledge this group of fictitious beings or people as being the so-called indigenous to the land. But they did away with copper tone people being able to claim that right. So that was them acknowledging and giving us our right, or acknowledging the indigenous people and then stripping the food out your mouth again and giving it to this classification of people. We can classify them because we can contract with them and control and agree to acknowledge them in this way. But they ain't gonna sprinkle no water on our crackers. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Article 3 in the American Rights of Indigenous People, I want you all to look at. Article 3 says, Indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So that's like indigenous people, we have the right to everything. That goes back to Islam. I self-law am master.
Absolutely. And it's even deeper than that, because on our land, we are the law. In our complete and full de jure status, we are the law. They practice law. We perfect the law, because everything we say and do is law.
So are we in law and they're at law?
We are, exactly. Once you understand and accept and start operating in your correct status, that becomes true. You are the law. Not saying that they're not going to continue to use plausible deniability, because that's what a de facto is supposed to do. It's like they're a cartoon. They supposed to act like they real. But you can't tell a cartoon that it's fake. A cartoon character is going to tell you that he don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness.
So, right, once you actually come into your nationality and are tied back to the land, then, yeah, all the fictitious smoke started to clear. Because you understand that as a noble of the land, you make the laws, you carry the laws, you enforce the law.
Now, another part in the American Rights of Indigenous People, Article 5. Section 2 says human rights and collective rights. Article 5, full effect and observance of human rights. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right to the full enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms, as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Charter of the Organization of American States, and international human rights law.
Keyword: human rights. Did you hear them say civil rights?
No, not at all. The civil is dead.
Civil right, but human rights, and that's what I'm saying. As black people, status and error. As black people, we've been marching, begging, petitioning, marching again, rioting, all that shit for civil rights. Not at all have we been arguing and fighting for human rights. But once your nationality and your land ties are reconnected, human rights are established and come with it. And civil rights automatically follow. So as long as you beg and master for some bread, he don't ever have to give it to you. The first thing to do is to wake up and realize, nigga, you ain't my motherfucking master. I'm the one made the bread. You know what I'm saying? Why I gotta ask you to eat some? You know, that's the difference in being a national and a citizen. Because as a black man, dead in the eyes of the law, black man, we are begging and pleading and applying for civil rights instead of coming out of the mentality that these motherfuckers is our masters.
But I love this because once you claim your nationality, you have the right to the full enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom. So when you claim your nationality, you can enjoy your fruit, the labor you can farm, they're supposed to leave you that hell alone and let you be free, which is your birthright.
Which is your birthright.
But these entities keep us as paper, as citizens, as subjects, as civilly dead.
And that's what I said.
To enjoy.
It's even beyond that, because as long as they doing business by agreement on this land, they owe us. They owe us because we are the heirs to the vast estate. That means that they owe us for all the profits and shit that they doing on our land, instead of making us debtors and paying their debts, because that's what they've really been doing, reversing the roles and making us pay their debts with our labor and stealing it from us at the same time, because the real money is the energy, is the people's energy, is your energy, and then they are able to use these de facto chattel papers and promissory notes to rob you from that energy, to keep you on the commercial rat race thinking that you got to work to eat, or you got to slave for one of their corporations in order to feed your child or your kids, when really they just stealing your energy to better them their own agendas. Like, we pay for all the 5G towers. We pay for all the vaccinations. We pay for all the bullshit that they inflict upon us by constantly feeding the beast and not understanding these things. Not, like Noble Drew Ali said, not taking our rightful position amongst the affairs of men. We are contributing to our own demises just by not receiving, accepting, and moving on this information, not completely taking responsibility for our estates, for our ancestral lineage. You know what I'm saying? So the more that we continue to feed the beast by being lost in the sauce and taking whatever the fuck they say we supposed to do and doing it and contributing and paying their taxes and giving them the jurisdiction that they don't have, we can't really blame them for our own ignorance. Now, it's one thing to be ignorant to this shit and never heard it before, but the real problem is with the people who receive this information and still choose to do nothing, still choose not to further themselves as far as what it takes to learn this shit, and then still want to claim victim at the end of the day, talking about how they violated my civil rights shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't blame nobody once you come across this information. It's all on you.
That also goes back to how they say the Moors, we were the first to do everything. But we allow, as much as we don't want to believe it, the truth is we allow them to come in and do the things that they have done to us, which we're still doing the same thing till today, but not claiming our nationality. We're still allowing them to have us register our cars. We still allow them to have us state our strawmans for the record and keep us dead and raw. Like, we're still allowing all of that because we're not walking in our truth. We haven't claimed our nationality. We haven't did our research and study to know that, how can I say this, to know that all of that is fraud.
Right. But see, it's just like it's different levels of the fraud, it's also different levels of the problem. Because first is understanding this shit and understanding your true status and what it should be as far as operating in commerce and dealing with these corporations. Second, second is we have a problem with unifying. Like, it's only so much any one of us can do, or any small organization or any group over here. Different organizations or different entities may be getting different results based on their level of competency in certain situations, but we have to find a way to combine as a nation and be a nation.
Oh, I felt that, yeah.
Because the numbers, we have to have an army. We have to have a body collective that's able to represent and basically stand together, unified. That's what our platform here is based on. We are based on unified, first sharing the knowledge and letting people understand the importance of these things. And then beyond that, the mission of the menu is to create national unity amongst Moors, amongst people that understand this information and want to actually be a part of the bigger collective. So it's not about working for us or coming under our nothing. It's about us all understanding the need to be a bigger picture ourselves, not a part of the bigger picture, but we are the big picture. And combined, they can't do none of this shit. Would none of this shit be possible if all of the nobles and all of the indigenous people of the land stood up, recognized who they are? There's no way that a European can do shit. They can't bomb Russia and say that America did it. Because the true Americans would be speaking and saying, hold on, man, you ain't no motherfucking American. You're not finna do that shit no more in the name of the Americans. Because that ain't your birthright. That ain't your name. That ain't who you are. We know they Europeans. We know they Germans. We know they all other type of shit. But they don't call themselves European Americans. They make us try to call ourselves Afro-Americans. Once again, to take us off the land so that they can act as us. When these motherfucking Europeans bomb Russia, they don't say the European Americans did it. They say America did it. That shit don't make sense. The only way they get away with it is because the indigenous Americans are asleep at the wheel. So they can usurp our identity. Usurp
us, yes.
Right.
So we're going to go to the meaning of the menu podcast. The whole reason for us coming together and opening up our behind closed doors, our meetings, and what we study and what we do on Tuesdays and Fridays is Moors establishing national unity. And the importance of that for us is we have no right. I feel like we have no right telling each other. I think it's just another form of trying to keep us in shackles. I have no right telling my other fellow empress or emperor, you have to come be with me, or you have to do this, or you have to give me this in order to claim your nationality or be right. All we doing is keeping each other in a deeper hole than what we already are. We can't wake each other up. We can't help each other by still giving each other demands on what we need to do and how we need to do it. We need to help each other, give each other the necessary tools to research and study, and then let the individual do what they want to do amongst them coming to their own thyself.
And and to add to that, nobody can sell you a birthright. Just like nobody can take it away. You have to give it away. Nobody can sell you your nationality. And anybody that's trying to do that is working for the corporation in so many words. Because how am I going to tell you that this is the fact, though? The money ain't real. And we are the people. We are the strength. And then try to sell you the knowledge.
And then we tell you to give me that fiat.
Give me the fiat that I just told you didn't matter. It's a self-contradiction. It's a self-contradiction. Because how am I going to solicit funds, even though, what is this shit? Even though the material costs fiat, other than paper and ink, it shouldn't be no charge. It should be no fucking charge in spreading the word. It is helping people to understand their nationality and their blood tie connections to their ancestors and who they really are in law, not just in commercial activity or corporate fiction.
Because this is my thing, and this is how we're not waking each other up by saying you have to join me or I have to give you nationality. We have elders that is on fixed income, or we have people that don't have no fiat at all. So because they don't have no fiat at all, or they can't pay for these certain things, mean they can't be free? Like, it makes no sense. We have so many people that don't have it, and that's why we are where we are now and in a deep hole, because all we want to do is continue to take from each other and not really wake each other up. I see more taking than helping, and I don't see how the whole world, all the melanated people, is going to be able to get their nationality only if they go join someone. If that's the case, they're going to stick to whatever religion that they know of, or whatever creator or belief that they believe in, because that's more valuable to them than somebody telling me, give me your fiat if you want to be free.
Right. The message we want to get across is that we, as the people, and our energy is the real money.
Yeah.
Our attention is the real currency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't afford to do nothing else, make sure you can afford to pay attention.
Oh, yes. Pay attention. You can't pay nothing else. Pay attention. And research and study. I'm going to keep saying this 1,000 times, so research and study. We have to stop being afraid of what we're going to come across or what we're going to read, because we don't want to come to reality. We got to come out of this matrix. Once we come out of this matrix and that rabbit hole, we can be free and we can come together and we can exchange silver and gold, our DeLorean, our farm. Like, we can come together and we can rule the nation the way we're supposed to be.
I think that's a good closing note.
Yeah, I think so too. So, and that,
You just cut it off. Why you ain't say that?
we want to go ahead and close out. You all can catch us next week. We did a freestyle tonight. We're going to resume back to our classes on Tuesday. You can subscribe on YouTube to Jennifer Lynn /Jennifer Steele, and you can watch the full show. All will be back on IG as well. We will start at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will continue with the nationality. So before we close out, you want to say something?
No, I just want to say once again, it's about the menu. Everybody need to get on board. The menu, Moors establishing national unity
Yes.
is the order of the day.
Yes. And this is for all the Moors all over, no matter who you are. We all can come together. We can do Zooms. We can do conference calls. However you all want to do it, we all can come together. We really will want from state to state that we all can show our unity together and not our division.
And here we students first.
Yes.
So we have no problem or objection to sharing this platform to spread the information. So if there's anybody out there that has information or see anything that they can add to the information that we provided tonight, we ask that you come on in and join us and, put your 2 cents in, because we are students first. We always willing to learn.
Absolutely.
And we need that. We need to be able to do that on a large scale. Share the information so that we can figure out all the things and the keys that we miss to make this puzzle come together.
And not divide each other, because at the end of the day, we all are the Jews. We all are the melanated people. We all are the indigenous. This is all of our birthrights. So we have to learn and understand that. And so with that, we will see you all next week. Appreciate you all for coming in and tuning in with us. Again, if you want to rewatch this over again, you can go back to the our YouTube channel or our IG and rewatch it. Peace and love, you all. Peace and love, and we will see you all next week. Good night. Good peace and love. Again, you all can come back here and see us next week. Peace and love. We're going to do a little closing and then head out.
Peace and love.
If you a card carrying order, show off your ID. Know what you are, lead. Prophet, know what you are, lead. And if you're not, you must proclaim your nationality. You taught us love is the truth, consider conquer hate. You taught us peace is Islam, and that you can't debate. You taught us freedom is in the line, cause it's a mental state. Justice only blind with a law, cause this you can't escape. It's tag day, so we celebrate